Federal government to train 2 million youths on digital skill innovation. Central Bank Governor Yemi Cardoso woos investors, pledges to tackle foreign exchange scarcity. African Development Bank unveils climate funding guidelines for Nigeria and others. Oil prices fall as Russia, Saudi Arabia expected to boost supply. Asian markets largely rebound, with Hong Kong leading gains. Japan data in focus. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Now let's bring you up to speed with business development. Vice President Kashim Shettima says Nigeria will leverage on developments in the innovation and communication technology sector to enhance youth employment. Speaking at the federal government Allied Digital Skill Innovation Program for MSMEs, he said the administration's drive is to generate employment for all categories of youths.
We are compelled to take this path by the direction in which the world has headed. A world of disruptive technologies redefined by the fourth industrial revolution. This initiative is a response to the evolution of the modern business environment, an acknowledgement that digital skills have become the cornerstone of economic ease and expansion.
Now, the African Development Bank Group has published country-by-country economic reports to guide Nigeria and other African policymakers to access the needed climate finance. This was revealed in a statement by the Development Bank on Thursday. The reports were launched ahead of the 28th United Nations Conference on Climate Change. Chief Economist and Vice President of the African Development Bank Group, Professor Kevin Urama, said the reports will help evoke sound, practical and implementable policies to enhance private sector financing for climate change and green growth. As countries prepare for COP28, the reports provide each African country with independent, verified analysis and recommendations for evidence-based negotiations during the global conversation on climate finance and green transitions. The Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Dr. Yemi Cardoso has assured local and foreign investors of a conducive operating environment, saying everything possible will be done to make them comfortable. He gave the assurance in his office when a group of investors paid him a visit, while noting that the Apex Bank will ride on its statutory functions to identify distortions in the foreign exchange market and other systemic tremors. Cardoso added that under his watch, the new management team at the bank will do its best to demolish the impediments to liquidity, as it has become a major headache for all. Now, dollar of 10-month high, yen still under intervention watch. As Nigeria prepares to celebrate her 63rd independence anniversary, we shall be taking a look at how Nigeria has fared economically in the last 63 years and what should or can be done to improve on what we have already. And to do justice to this is senior economist with SPM Professionals, Paul Alaja, who joins us virtually from Lagos. You're welcome to Business Express.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me. A good, beautiful afternoon to you.
Okay, now let's look at, let's delve into the subject matter. Looking at Nigeria's economy in the last more than 60 years, how would you say we have fared so far?
Well, we up and down in the economy. There were times where the economy was growing fast, especially before the discovery of oil. But upon the discovery of oil, we abandoned some of the gains that we had, by the then Nigerians. After that, we had embraced some policy which includes structural adjustment program. We came off that. In the late 90s, there was some level of economic until democracy came. When democracy came, we saw new policy. We saw the rebasing of the economy, other things that happened in Nigeria. But right now, we know what is going on. Economy, inflation has remained double digit, unemployment remained really high, and there were a number of concerns. One, partly because of global economic quagmire, two, because of COVID, and so on and so forth. They've had tremendous negative impact on the economy. We understand that Africans have continued to do their best to bring Nigeria out of economic quagmire. But we hope that as we are getting to new policies and changes in implementation and new energy that invigorate the economy is what we are going to see going forward.
Now, during President Tinubu's inaugural speech, he somehow set the pace with a clear roadmap towards economic recovery. How would you say his administration has performed so far?
Well, it's too early. The administration have not done up to a year. So it's too early. But what I can say on the immediate is that the intention of government was to bring in foreign investors, which led to the devaluation of Naira. Unfortunately, because we are still owing a lot of organizations that have invested ab initio, our inability to repatriate funds has made investors, among other reasons, to the country as we speak. Again, we have seen subsidy has been removed, which has led to revenue to government. But unfortunately, labor is complaining of no revenues, of income, because of course that has depleted the quality of money in the pocket of labor. And this is not different from any Nigeria, even as Nigeria celebrates the 63rd year as an independent nation.
Okay, which areas do you think that we need to actually look at and strengthen so that Nigeria will be on the path of growth and development?
The way forward for us as a nation is to move away from dependence on imports. We need to promote exports, and as government has promised to support small businesses, it must be export-oriented. We must deliberately support exportation of product. We must be focused. Production. If we don't produce, unfortunately, the rest of the world will produce for us, and that will keep devaluing our currency. For the backbone of production will be based on constant power supply. Nigeria, since 1960 till date, has not been able to produce, to generate, transmit, and distribute power for all the homes and factories in Nigeria. If we are unable to do this, I'm afraid we might not be able to liberate our country from economic quagmire and the number of poor people we have. Already, Bureau of Statistics and UNDP says we have over 133 million people living in multidimensional poverty. And these are realities. I'm afraid we may not be able to liberate ourselves from them.
Okay, recently the president has rolled out his 8-point agenda. And one of it is access to capital, as well as making the environment for doing business more conducive and things like that. So what areas do you think that the current administration need to prioritize so that we get things right?
For me, the most important sector that we need to prioritize, apart from what I've mentioned in terms of making energy available, is also making funding available. The economy right now is tough. Many businesses are complaining. Prices of commodity have since increased because of flotation of naira, as well as removal of subsidy. So this we do is to find a way to ameliorate the pains that people might be going through, and this will not come if we don't have enough effects. It will not come if we don't liberate our system. It will not come if we don't deliberately support small businesses and mop up a lot of youths that are on the street without major work. Therefore, government, we need to invest. I understand the president had promised last day of July and said it was the administration will support small businesses. But as we speak, Nigerians are still really very hopeful. But this must go beyond the 100,000 or 1 million naira that we want to give. We must expand this amount indeed and ensure that we expand the number of people to be giving to. Because this economy is having a lot of cash challenges. That's one on the part of the people. On the part of government, Nigerian government revenue continues to dry up, even with devaluation of currency. Apart from oil revenues, we are still having major challenges. But that said, government must find means of generating sufficient revenue up to 20 trillion naira. We must depart from borrowing. Borrowings have brought us to a new. Nigeria is not able to progress and make so much in terms of infrastructure because 80% of what we generated in revenue last year was not used to pay debt but to service it. The question is, spend 20 years madness. When are we going to practice it?
Okay, recently the committee, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, I think, had concluded its work. What do you expect? What should Nigerians expect from this particular task?
Well, expansion of tax bracket without increasing tax. Taxation cannot be increased. If there is anything, we even need to consider some persons to have tax holiday, especially manufacturers that have been forced into closing down their factories and shops and their manufacturing centers. We need to do something very quickly about them. So I also think that we need to tie all our revenue coming from taxation from oil into infrastructure. Lastly, there are traditional taxes that government or charges that government should collect, and government is not collecting them, especially among multinationals that we are losing as a country today. I hope the committee will make right recommendation to government. The integrity of people in the committee is not in doubt at all. So I strongly believe that they will make the right recommendation to government. Then Nigeria can come out of economic quagmire by earning more and borrowing less.
Well, maybe we should talk about the recent confirmation of Yemi Cardoso as the central bank governor. And there's a lot of expectation and as well as conversation about what to expect from his appointment as the CBN governor. Let's have your thought about his appointment at this point in time.
The central bank governor is not about the person, it's about the system and what the system is able to do. Although the central bank we have it today is very important to understand that stability is a major concern of the central.
Well, let's move on. By the time we establish connection with Paul, we'll continue the conversation. Now, Gold slides on hawkish inflation test looms. Let's now see the price of commodities out there. Now, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC, has affirmed the council's commitment to tripling Nigeria's export volume and market share in the international market towards stabilizing the naira. Executive Director, NEPC, Ezra Yakusak, gave the assurance while briefing newsmen on the council's strategic steps to shore up the nation's export capacity as it plans to establish Nigeria Exports Trade House in Dubai in a bid to capture the Middle East market.
Nigeria must seek other ways of diversifying her own economy, especially in the area of trade facilitation, access to affordable finance, and the issue of infrastructural deficit.
To cushion the inflationary pressure on the naira, the NEPC boss says Nigeria must prioritize export so as to earn more foreign exchange to ease the naira depreciation.
Can challenge that we can stop the naira falling is through export, because it's the only sustainable source of foreign exchange.
The NEPC boss also affirmed that the council is strengthening its collaboration with the financial and private sectors to promote non-oil export, while speaking on the council's forthcoming annual conference, which is focused on building a sustainable economy through non-oil export. Gold slides on hawkish Fed inflation test looms, but let's also see energy market. Oil prices fell on Friday after a recent rally as profit taken at expectations of supply increases by Russia and Saudi Arabia outweigh forecasts of positive demand from China during its Golden Week holiday. Brent November futures, which expire on Friday, were down 21 cents to $95.17 per barrel. Brent December futures lost 10 cents to trade at $93 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell 8 cents to $91.63 per barrel. Oil prices had eased about 1% on Thursday as traders took profits after prices sold to 10 months high, and some worried that high interest rates may weigh on oil demand. Now, the International Air Transport Association says there is no going back on the zero-emission target by 2050. The clearinghouse for over 280 world airlines said every drop of fuel avoided counts in the aviation industry's quest to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050, especially the latest result from the association's fuel efficiency gap analysis. According to the association, Lot Polish Airlines is one of the airlines to undertake the figure, which identified the potential to shave its annual fuel consumption by several percent. That equates to an annual reduction of tens of thousands of tons of carbon from Lot's operations. The association's senior vice president of sustainability and chief economist, Mary Owens-Thompson, said every drop counts. Investment in capital market following President Bola Tinubu's visit to the National Association of Securities Dealers automatic quotation system, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and the assurance of free movement of funds by investors. Capital market professionals are advocating provision of incentives to encourage more companies to list in the capital market. Now, Ineka is standing by with global market update. Ineka, tell us what's happening in the market.
Hello and welcome to the global market segment. Let's start from Europe, where markets traded higher Friday, ending a 5-day losing streak in the previous session. The DAX in Germany is up by 1.04%. UK FTSE also rose 0.94%, while the French CAC advanced 1.08%. Asia-Pacific markets largely climbed in the final trading day of the week, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index leading gains in the region and rising 2.51% in the final hour of trade. Japan's Nikkei 225 gained 0.05%, while markets in China are closed for a public holiday. Stock futures in the US rose as well as investors prepared to end a difficult September. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average added 168 points. S&P 500 gained 0.51% and Nasdaq Composite is up by 0.66%. In Africa, Namibia's overall index led gains in early trade and rose 0.35% as markets largely rebounded from Thursday's losses. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 followed with a 0.31% increase and Tunisia's Stone Index 0.14%, while Ghana GSE Composite is marginally positive. And that's Global Market Review for this Friday. I am Neka Oko.
Thank you, Neka. And now to NGX. The last trading day for the week ended in negative territory as the all-share index closed trading at 66,382.14 basis points. At the end of Friday's trading session on the exchange, a total of 292.9 million shares in 6,826 deals valued at 4.53 billion naira exchange hands. Market capitalization stood at 36.33 trillion naira. Well, that's it. Business Express returns next week. Thanks for watching.